In Spanish, a table is female. In French, a chair is female, but a sofa is male. And in German, a girl is neuter, not she, it. If you have ever stared at a vocabulary list, thinking who decided this, today you get the answer. And it has almost nothing to do with gender. Welcome back to How Languages Work. Today, what grammatical gender actually is, where it came from 6,000 years ago, why English is the strange one for not having it, and the shortcut that finally makes it learnable. And we will bust the most famous claim about gender that it secretly changes how you see the world. That one is shakier than the internet admits. Part 1. It was never about gender. Start with the word itself. Gender comes from Latin genus, meaning kind or type. Same root as genre and generic. It never meant male and female. It meant category. So grammatical gender is not a claim about the world. It is a filing system. Every noun gets sorted into a class, and the words around it, articles, adjectives, have to match. Linguists call that agreement. That is the whole job. Need proof it is not about sex. German for girl is das Mädchen, NEUTER. Not because German has opinions about girls, but because Mädchen ends in chen, that ending makes diminutives, and every diminutive in German is neuter. Form beat meaning. And here is the clincher. Your own two Romance languages cannot even agree with each other. Milk, the sea, blood, salt, same objects, opposite genders. In two neighboring languages, descended from the same parent. If gender were really about the thing itself, that could not happen. Part 2. Where it came from. Rewind about 6,000 years to Proto-Indo-European, the reconstructed ancestor of Spanish, French, English, German, Greek, Hindi, and dozens more. Its oldest recoverable system had two classes, and they were not masculine and feminine. They were animate and inanimate. Roughly, things that act and things that do not. How do we know? Hittite. It is the earliest branch to split away, and it never got a third gender, just common and neuter. No feminine anywhere. The feminine had not been invented yet. In the branch that stayed behind, the animate class split in two, and the feminine was born. That gave the familiar trio. Masculine, feminine, neuter. Latin inherited all three. Then Latin's children started losing one. The neuter mostly dissolved into the masculine. Templum became el templo and le temple. Spanish and French were left holding two. Romanian still keeps a ghost of the third. Nouns that behave masculine in the singular and feminine in the plural. A gender that cannot make up its mind, which means nobody ever sat down and decided that a table was female. Grammatical gender is inherited furniture, 6,000 years old, and nobody kept the receipt. Part 3. Why English escaped? Because English had it too. Old English ran the full three-gender system. The sun, was feminine. The moon, Mona, was masculine. And wif, the ancestor of wife, was neuter. So what happened? Sound happened. Old English marked gender with small unstressed endings, a, u, e. Over time, those blurred into one mumbled vowel, the schwa, and then they dropped off entirely. And that is fatal. Children learn gender by hearing it. Once the endings sounded identical, there was nothing left to learn. The system starved. The Vikings sped it up. In the Danelaw, the Norse-controlled North, Old English and Old Norse shared plenty of roots, but disagreed on endings. Speakers did the practical thing and dropped the endings. And sure enough, gender loss starts in the North. By the middle of the 14th century, it was gone. And that whole apparatus of esi, SEO, and tide collapsed into just two small, genderless survivors. So English is not simpler by design. English is eroded. You are not learning a harder system in Spanish and French. You are learning the one English used to have. Part 4. Does gender change how you think? You have probably heard this one. German speakers whose bridge, die Brücke, is feminine, describe bridges as beautiful and elegant. Spanish speakers whose bridge, el puente, is masculine, describe them as strong and sturdy. It is everywhere. Your language shapes your reality. So let's do what we always do on this channel. Where is the source? It traces back to work by Lera Boroditsky and colleagues in the early 2000s, and some of the most quoted parts of it were never fully published in peer review. Then people tried to reproduce it. In 2014, a study with the excellent title Key is a Love, is a Schlüssel failed to replicate it. A 2019 review was openly skeptical, and a registered replication in 2022, designed in advance so the result could not be massaged, also came up empty. The and that. The honest verdict, the flashy version does not survive careful testing. Gender does affect how you process language in real time. That part holds up. But your grammar secretly makes bridges feminine in your mind is not established science. It means you are not rewiring your soul when you learn el and ella. You are learning grammar, just grammar. Part 5. The shortcut. Bad news. First, no rule works 100% of the time. Good news. You do not need 100%. You need 80. And 80 is sitting right there in the endings. And for French, this is measured. Roy Lister ran nearly 10,000 nouns from a French dictionary and found that about 80% of masculine nouns and 81% of feminine nouns are predictable from their ending alone. So here are the endings: feminine, tion, sion, te, et, ans, ur, masculine, ment, age, o, isme, war. Learn 10 endings, and most of the dictionary sorts itself out for you. Watch the rebels, though. La page, la plage, and l'image break the age rule. L'eau and la peau break the o rule. And l'été and le côté break the te rule. Learn the rule first. Spanish is even kinder. Beyond o and a, tion, sion, dat, tad, and umbre are feminine, and words ending in ma that came in from Greek are masculine. Then collect the exceptions. And the classic traps are few enough to simply memorize. La mano, el día, el mapa. Add the clipped words. La foto, la moto, la radio, short for fotografía, motocicleta, and radiodifusión, and you have covered most of the famous difficulty. And one trick that confuses everyone: el agua. Water is feminine. It takes L in the singular only because agua begins with a stressed A, and that L is not even the masculine article. It is a leftover of the Old Spanish feminine article, ela, worn down in front of a vowel. The proof it is still feminine? El agua fría. And las aguas. Same story with el águila and el hacha. Do not learn mesa. Learn la mesa. Do not learn livre. Learn le livre. Store the article as part of the word as a single unit from the very first time you meet it. Retrofitting gender later is the expensive way, and it is the mistake almost every learner makes. Then level 2. Learn it inside a tiny phrase with an adjective, la mesa pequeña, le petit livre. Now the agreement is baked in, and your ear starts doing the work instead of your memory. Zoom out, and the whole thing gets easier to forgive. Roughly 4 in 10 of the world's languages have some kind of gender system. In one standard survey, 112 languages out of 257. And some languages go much further. Swahili and its Bantu relatives sort nouns into classes traditionally counted at around 18. separate categories for people, for trees, for tools, for abstract ideas. Next to that, two genders starts to look like a bargain, and plenty of languages have none at all. Turkish, Finnish, Hungarian, Persian, Chinese, Japanese, Korean. Their speakers communicate perfectly well. Gender is optional equipment. So when Spanish calls a table female, it is not saying anything about tables. It is handing you a 6,000-year-old filing cabinet with most of the labels still legible. If you know which endings to read, your homework. Take 10 nouns you use every single day and rewrite them in your notes with the article attached. Just 10. Then tell me in the comments which one you had been getting wrong this whole time. I read them all. And if this made L and La feel a little less random, subscribe, because next time, why English spelling makes no sense and the exact century it broke. Sources are below as always. See you in the next one. Nos vemos.